started, I thought I would tell you just a little bit about myself so that you understand like where I come from and kind of what my history is. And I'm very open to questions, so please ask me questions as we move through this talk and interrupt, we can have a conversation. I'm all about that, all right? I am from Iowa, so I grew up right here. Not right here, but in this state. I am the daughter of my father who built John Deere tractors. Basically, he didn't build them himself, but he helped with that process and probably could have ran my time management class in school. And now he is happily retired and driving every new John Deere tractor that he can get his hands on and working for someone else, but he's enjoying every minute. And the daughter of my mother, who is a math teacher. So I grew up with an awful lot of, let's just say, science and math, right? And I'm a very creative spirit, and I love to be creative, and so it was with that foundation, and after that was kind of instilled, that I continue to really strive and be more creative. So that's where some of the ideas come into play that you'll hear about today. I like going for a walk. I love going running, but see, I don't know what it is about me, but now my knees are telling me they're bad. So anyway, I do like to be outdoors. I do like to walk. I love to read. I'm very much into reading about ways to improve me as a leader, so that I can take different things to the team. And those are generally the type of books that I read. And I'll give you a couple ideas as we move forward. Love coffee, and I already talked about ideas. Basically, I started my career as a graphic designer. I had a graphic design degree from Iowa State. Ended up working for a graphic design firm and getting up in the middle of the night doing press checks and learning what a Heidelberg was, okay? Climbing up on it and making sure that everything was matching for the million prints that are being done, which is why I'm really excited to be into web, because it's not final. Web is always changing. Then I decided to get an MBA. I thought, about 5 years into that career, it was worth taking some classes that I hadn't really wrapped my head around in undergrad. So, did that. Eventually, learned about Drupal. It took me several years to really get into it from the graphic design side. I did do some Drupal development for a couple of years for Extension and Outreach, where I helped train and maintain and manage websites throughout the counties in Iowa with that guy right back there, who I owe a lot to, actually. And then, now, I just run around and everything is on fire as a project manager, right? So, I didn't know what else to put there, but if you kind of understand that situation, that's where we're at. So, in order to begin, it's important to see the definitions of some words, because we all have an idea of what developer means in our own head, and I don't know how often we're going to go to the Google and say, hey, hi Google, what does developer mean? So I found it really interesting that a person or thing that develops something, and basically I was very drawn to the idea of looking at developer in terms of photography and turning film into something visible. Because in a lot of cases, we are doing that. We are turning ideas into something visible. The next word is traverse, and this was the best, I guess, image that I had for traversing. We have to kind of find the next step, and we want to make the next practical choice as we move forward through a project, for example. We have to be agile, like a cat here. we need to be able to kind of go through this terrain and have a frequent assessment of our surroundings and see if something is going to drop a little lower, someone needs another requirement that's a little higher, and we need to continuously reassess those things. So, a little bit about who the group is that I'm working with now. We are a small team of excellent people is what we like to say, because truly it is a great group of people, and we have 4 primary developers on our team. We have 1 content strategist and UX expert, a team lead who leads all of us, and then myself, who's the project manager. We're running roughly 250 websites. That does not include the DE as a service project that we just stood up, where it's going to have several hundred websites as faculty continue to build their own websites using the ISU Sites platform, where essentially a faculty member can go to the site, click a button, create a website. They can be logged into it within 5 minutes. They can drag and drop and make beautiful home pages. They can have people directories. They can do all the things, okay? And that's really what we're building to move all of our Drupal 7 sites into, which beyond the faculty implementation will be for ourselves, and that's what we are about to release as I'm running in the room today. The agenda. So I'm going to really run through it quick because I don't know how much time we're going to have to get through everything. So as we move through, I will have put, if you see little light bulbs in the bottom right corner of the screen, that means that I've got a few, they're not there now, but they will be on future slides. I've got a few ideas for you. If I feel like we're running low on time, I may just skip through them or work through them quickly, and I will provide them to you later, okay? Because I needed to have a way to move us along, because there's so many fun things to talk about. What just happened? Hi. I don't know. So we're going to learn about, these are basically things that I've learned through the last several years working with this small development team. We have adapted to using current tools differently. So hopefully you'll learn something new from some of the tools that you use and how you can use them differently. We've learned that we need to improve technique and have meeting strategies. So when do you have meetings? Why do you have them? What's the point of them? There's a lot of efficiencies with meetings if they are efficient within themselves and they're done right for your team. And then we'll walk through some lessons learned. So, hi. I don't know. Okay. All right. Is that really the next? This thing is all messed up. Okay. Using a current tool differently. So basically, we think of that, I think, within our normal workday. We think of things that we've done all the time. Like, for example, I've got a morning routine, and I always get a cup of coffee, and I always do it the same way, and I always get to work and have the same mug, and I just kind of, you get into this sort of like idea of consistency. We do that with our tools, obviously, as well, right? It works, and then all of a sudden you're like, why have I been using this? And for 2 years, and it's like all of a sudden time passes, and you're like, oh, I could maybe do something different with that tool. So that's my point, and what I was hoping to look at with this section. So with the new day comes new strength and new thoughts. And I felt that that was extremely relevant to this section when we start thinking about using tools differently. So hello Jira. How many people use Jira? Oh, not as many as I thought. Okay, cool. So if you haven't used Jira, Jira is essentially something like a Trello board. Have you used Trello before? Most people have used Trello? Okay. So if you take like Trello and the idea of a card sort, like sticky notes on a wall, either way, it's kind of 3 or 4 times that, right? So you're going to be able to relate tickets, you're going to be able to organize your projects in many different ways, even pulling in your commit, links to your commits on GitHub and that kind of thing. So that's what Jira is. So I'm going to talk a little bit about a couple things that we have learned about Jira. At first, as I said in the description of this talk, I was so excited as a project manager to learn about epics for the first time, and I thought this is fantastic, so I started putting epics everywhere. And so once we had a bunch of epics in Jira, and I was like so excited and everything was looking what I thought as nice, we realized something pretty strong right away, and that was that you cannot connect a task with more than one epic. So what does that mean? Well, the way that our team is run, and I'll go through this a little later, is basically we have a project for every website that we have in Jira. Because there's too many. I mean, there's just a lot of projects, so we literally have 250 projects in Jira, and that's how we run it. And it is the most efficient way that we can run it. So when we're looking at things like accessibility, for example, it is extremely difficult to be able to use epics and link a task for accessibility to fulfill multiple standards that you might have in regards to meeting the WCAG 2.1 standards. So instead, what we like to do is focus on relationships. As much as this can happen, and as much as we can focus on relationships, we're going to be able to move more efficiently through completing the task. Because as a project manager, what I'm going to do is say, we did this a year ago, and I'm going to go find the ticket and I'm going to relate it. Or there's 2 or 3 clients asking for the same thing. I'm going to relate those tickets so that devs understand that you can be more efficient by just kind of putting these together when you have a moment. Instead of giving the 3 different developers when they all don't know that it's being worked on by someone else and why is 3 different people doing it. I mean, you can really move more efficiently through Jira just by relating tickets. So that is a good thing. So this is our workflow. We're, again, so proud of it. It's like, this is so great. It was great for a bit. The reason that this was so good was because it was more than a workflow. It was telling us so much more. It was saying, this is in review, there's a lot of stop gaps for us to double check things, right? Because we didn't close a ticket, we resolved a ticket. Resolve means the thing is done, but there wasn't another set of eyes to like confirm like we can for sure close it. I mean, there's just a lot of that kind of stuff going on, which is okay, I think, for larger groups and larger teams because you actually need that because you're not all necessarily seeing everyone every day. So we ended up moving to that. And it wasn't that long ago that we did it. Basically, it just opened the doors to saying anybody can move a ticket to any one of these stages. So now you didn't have to have a prerequisite to go through, yes, I'm ready to be committed before I can close it. Because what if it's something that doesn't need a commit? It's an actual content thing that I'm jumping in and helping someone learn. Or what if it's, so now we're clicking through 45 times, it just felt like forever. So this is now what we see. So instead of at the top of Jira where you have this whole list of buttons that kind of appear, and then you all of a sudden are like, oh, there's a new one now because I surpassed a certain gate. So if you haven't used Jira, it's okay, but the point is simplifying processes can actually make your team more efficient if it's going to help your team culture. And this is one of those things that certainly has done that. We have a few rules about Jira. So all of our team members can create tickets. It's not just the project manager or just certain people. And I think, do most people work like that? Like, does the environment you're in work like that? Like, anybody can create a ticket, right? I think we basically have one main rule, and that rule is just don't take a ticket from someone, like, if they don't expect it, okay? I mean, you could be like, thanks, that's awesome, but you may not have had a chance to write down what you've already been working on with that ticket in the ticket. So that's kind of our main rule. Then we moved into a couple issues. Number one, clients were emailing me. So it's great in Jira, if we have a new project, we can move in our own tasks. But what about those 250 content editors that just have questions, they need support help, they need all of this stuff? That's coming from our team as well. How do we handle those, and how do we get those in Jira? And so what was happening was I was literally doing a copy-paste job, right? It's like me, every morning, half an hour, like, oh, this little and happy dance, like drink a coffee and copy-paste the things over and assign it to the people and everything. So we did figure out in Jira that can be automated. We have a web support email address, so if a client emails web support, it's automatically added into Jira. That's awesome, okay? So that's not really the thing. But what happened was that all the tickets that came in were created by me and assigned to me, okay? So why would that be a problem? Like, because initially we're just learning, set it up as that, being assigned to me. Well, it's hard because it doesn't tell the developers that this came in from a client on the onset when they're like looking through their list. So it's really hard to get that initial context right away of this came from a client. This came from somebody that needs help, not just Anne saying, oh, this would be a cool thing to put these concepts together, right? So the first thing we did was make a user in Jira, basically, called client email. His first name is client and last name is email, and that is what it is. And then we have them come in all unassigned. So that's really great because there's a project called web support that they all come into. And that way, developers can go in and say, oh, all of these are unassigned because, I will get around to it, but if I'm in meetings for 2 or 3 hours, a developer could just have kind of this point in the day where you want something different to look at, and it's probably going to take 10 minutes to help a client with something. They could go in and very easily see that it hasn't been assigned to anyone yet. Because it's hard to tell if it's me if I actually was assigning it to myself to do it. So I'll rock through the little light bulbs really fast. Light bulb number 1, hook up to GitHub, and we already talked about that. That is really awesome with Jira. And I think I already did a little talk on this next light bulb, which was the WCAG 2.1 standards. We've done a lot in Jira with those because we feel that it's important to relate the different standards to a task. So what we've done is move to using labels for that. So, for example, if you are fixing an issue that will help improve alt text because that field is now required, you are working on a ticket that when you know a faculty is editing their faculty profile, you're going to automatically pull in their first and last name because you know it and it will save this person time. You can relate it to alt text. So that way we have this way to connect. The other thing is I will show the list of the different types of tickets that we have, but it is really nice to be able to collect data from those web support tickets, have them in their own project. They have their own specific kind of ticket, and so when you have to give those end-of-year reports of what was your team doing, it's very easy to do in Jira. So now we're going to talk a little bit about technique. Oh, I wanted to show the donuts later. Whatever, that's okay. Improving technique, this is really where you're going to get the donuts from clients. Because if you can improve your own techniques so that you can be more communicative to your clients, kind of answer things a little bit faster, that's gonna seriously, it'll bring you donuts. Like I've seen the donuts come in the office from clients. And by clients, I'm saying like faculty. Now it's a lot, you know? Like I'm at a university, faculty members are seriously running around. They have so much to do. They have not, in a lot of cases, honestly, not all the support that they would like and that kind of thing. So for a faculty member to bring donuts, I feel like is a good thing. And so I want you guys to get donuts too. So this was a neat quote I felt that related to this second section. Don't count the days, make the days count. It is truly the case. You know, you start thinking about how long it takes to do something. What's really important is what you're doing today and right now and with the people that are around you. And that's how you're going to really grow as a team and learn to really connect. So we encourage people to write requirements and not just and why do we do that? You know, because initially I would love to be able to write the initial requirements for everything, but with this many projects, it's not possible for me to write all the requirements for everything. Also, I don't have the understanding as deeply as developers do. I would consider myself a Drupal builder. So that means that I can do enough to make a client maybe happy because I could like get in there and move a block around. And that kind of makes devs happy sometimes if I check all the right boxes. Because it saves them from doing that. But we need each other because we need to be able to have that starting ground. And I think that what we've learned on the team, what I've seen, is that developers are really afraid to create requirements because sometimes it feels like there's, you know, developers over here, project managers like over here somewhere, and then the client is like really close to the project manager right here. Okay, that's what I get the impression of. And what we want is to keep these three people closer together. And so if a developer can help write not what the final requirements are per se, but say from what your client is saying and what you as a PM have put in this ticket, this is what I'm hearing, and this is what I'm looking at building. Is that right? And be able to go through quickly, whether it's right or not, before y'all spend a whole bunch of time doing something that may not be correct. So I think just not being afraid of that. We also started decision documents. So we learned that the first platform we built, we made a lot of decisions, and it actually started before I was on the team. So some of the decisions, we knew why they were made. But what happens is, when you have a small team, is that you do have a tight-knit culture usually, because you kind of know each other and you understand how each other starts to think, and you get it. And you get why the choice was made. Because you just inherently have been part of this team and you're all together. What happens though, a couple years down the line, when this platform is all of a sudden 5 years old? You have 3 to 5 new developers, and it's difficult to explain the reasons because you have to also explain what the culture was. You have to explain the technology environment at that time. And it's not always easy to remember. Like, where was the technology and how far along was it at the time that this decision was made and why was it made, right? So this has been fairly new for our team and really, really helpful. And it's something literally I found on the Modern Servant Leader. I just went on, I'm like, okay, what is a decision document template? And we use Box and just duplicate the template and make decisions that way. And so that gets us into Box. So we do use Box to be able to communicate with each other on notes. And where this really comes into play is when we are having meetings, because we're going to be able to type notes together, whereas if it was in Jira, we can't do that because we're going to save over each other, I think.
So is Box a note-taking tool, or?
It's like, kind of like Google Docs,
Okay.
basically. And Iowa State has it available to us, that's why we use it. And I think it's a little, well, now that we have, I don't know, I think it was.
But like Google Docs would work the same, just
Yes, Google Docs, very same. Yep. It just means everybody can get in there and edit at the same time. Mm-hmm. So what we generally do, and what we've learned works for the technique of running a meeting, is that we'll put the agenda in Jira and we'll put it out a day or two ahead, and then folks can add to it. During the actual meeting itself, literally the agenda is copy and pasted into like a Google Doc or something, and then everybody can make notes, and it's literally just bullet points after the agenda, and whoever is leading that meeting will then move it into Jira. But it's just a good way to very quickly and effectively know that what other people on the team are saying is how you're interpreting it, because you're seeing it written down. We do have all of our meetings in Zoom. We have one remote person, and so everything we do is as if we were remote. So this is extremely useful, actually, because we can share screens and talk to each other very easily. So the other thing we did to improve technique was the different issue types. So we have a communication ticket. So this is like a meeting ticket. And so in this case, you want to keep what I found from developers, it's nice to keep the title of the ticket for meetings based on the year first. So it would be 2019-11-07. Why is that helpful? It's helpful because it is extremely fast when you say, okay, I want to see the communication tickets for this project and in the order that they happen. Done. And so that's why we have something called communication. Web support, like I talked to you about earlier, that's giving the client love, basically, like just keeping things moving. The developers have started to really spin off in Jira and do some wonderful things that I am hands off of, because I appreciate they are in a technical problem solving mode, and what they like to do is create a requirements ticket that has the basic requirements for a task. They like to create individual smaller pieces that meet those requirements and link them together, and they do a great job with that. So that's why we have requirement. And then I think you know the rest, like bug and epic and that kind of thing. Oh yeah, those were my things. I think I gave them to you. Oh, I didn't. Okay. I share a dashboard. So I create a dashboard. Do you want to create dashboards if you have them in Jira? Okay, in Jira, what that means is basically there's a one place that as a project manager I can create that looks, I should have had a little screenshot, sorry. But it gives you just an overview. You can say, here's a list of my tasks, here's how many days we've left in the sprint, here's the percentage that we have completed in the sprint, here's only your tickets, here's all of the feed that's going through as things are being done. Everyone can create their own dashboard and what they've deferred. That's awesome, and I encourage people to do that. But it is, I found very nice because my PM board is what the team knows that I'm looking at. So it's just extremely helpful, and it's also helpful for them to build their own, because then they can say, oh, cool, okay. And it's not just like having to start from scratch. And okay, I don't know if I showed this, yeah. So this is something new that we started within the last few months. And what we learned is that in some cases, when we're about to start creating a feature, that we want a process for how we create that feature. Now this is not like every little tiny thing that ever comes that you need to do. Like this is something we're going to build the ability for faculty to add events. Okay, and this is the process we're going to follow. Or if two developers are talking and they decide that a feature would be really cool to add to this platform that the rest of the team doesn't know about yet, this is the process that we would follow. And it's been really fun and helpful. So basically, I'll just go through really fast. I provide the slides. Come up with the idea on your own. Great, that's cool. But make sure you share it with somebody else on the team as well. Don't just keep it to yourself. Then refine your idea and discover kind of different things that you learned. So potentially, you might just discover some things and learn something and kind of decide to start over and do a different idea, and that's okay. So that's what that little loop is. Refining your idea, schedule an agenda for on daily stand-up so you can mention it to the rest of the team, and literally you present it to the team. And you kind of get feedback from the team, and if there is these things were brought up, let's bring it back, it will go back. Yes, if it's going to move forward and the team says we're going to move it forward, we have a pre-kickoff. So why a pre-kickoff? So behind. I'm going to get in so much trouble. I didn't even get through these. This is important. So pre-kickoff is basically what we found after I did some research and reading on this sort of thing. It's really important to have individual time for yourself to look at an idea and truly look at it in your own method. Like sketch it, think about it, bring the concepts together. And what we do is we let everybody on the team focus on whatever area of the feature that is of most interest to them, is going to be in their wheelhouse. And their job is not to solve the whole problem. Their job is to focus on one thing. If there's a field that they know is going to be challenging for this feature and they decide to focus on that, awesome. Then we have a meeting that's the actual kickoff, and everybody presents. There's no answer back and forth. It's just everybody gets a chance to present their full idea, concept, what they've learned. Everybody goes through. And then we move through and continue to get onto a schedule for getting that feature completed. Okay. So with meeting strategies, we'll have some John Wayne here. We dropped the 2-week sprint and we went to a 1-week sprint. Why did we do this? Because the trusty project manager was seeing the tickets continue to just move into the next 2-week sprint, and then they would just move into the next 2-week sprint, and then they would have 4 sprints attached to them, and then the project manager started to get really stressed out, and there wasn't enough coffee in the world, And the team then started to see that these tickets were like compiling and started to get stressed out. So now there's like this just ball of stress everywhere. And so I kind of went home and I'm like, all right, we got, I'm sitting in my house now because it's so bad. I'm like, we got to fix this. I said, 1 week. What's so great about 1 week for us has been, number one, a developer can very easily say, more easily say, yes, I can have this done by the end of this week, versus, can you have it done within the next 2 weeks? The answer is more accurate. It doesn't matter that it's 1 week or 2 weeks. What matters is that it's smaller bites to chew, and we're able to like move through it, and it actually makes the team feel better because we're checking the list, we're checking things off the list. We're not just putting too many things there than what need to be done. We also, in StandUp, instead of the normal scrum, like what did I do yesterday, what am I going to do today, and what are my blockers, all of that, we read an article, somebody found an article on our team, all of that focuses on I do this, I'm doing this tomorrow, I need this unblocked. And then you move to the next person, it's I. Well, what does everybody do? Like in some cases they go back to their desk and they're like, he, them, so now you start having this like questioning of stuff and almost like this, to me it just feels like our team is a really nice team and a good team, so there's really not blame, I don't see that, but I see frustration. When you turn it into looking at the tasks that we've divided up for the week and where we're at with the tasks, we as a team can approach the solution to completing the task. And it is less about each individual person. And for us, that has worked really well. I also started doing daily check-ins. I'm running late, but I'm in a hurry. Daily check-ins with our team. Recently, I'm going to say within the last few weeks, started doing this. Because there's so much to learn about the team, and really as a project manager, it's important to know how your team is feeling, what people are struggling with, and they're going to have a much easier time explaining that one-on-one when it's not about a project. And these one-on-ones are not too long, and they're going to get even shorter, but it's just an awesome way to learn. Because you can learn, like somebody will say, hey, I need a new mouse pad. And I'm like, yeah, you can have it tomorrow. Like, what? And so it makes people's lives better by doing that. It's like, I didn't know they needed a mouse pad, and they are too busy to ask me for a mouse pad. So yeah, that's how it happens. So I'm going to really run through these really fast. So this is really the sum of the talk. Essentially, when you start embracing these things, your ideas are going to fail. My ideas have failed many times. Many times. And I find that people are afraid to fail. I was one of them, until I started failing. And then I'm like, cool, okay, I failed again. Now what did I learn? Right? And so what happens is that you learn. Because when you can read all the books you want in the world, but you have a team that is unique, and your team is your own team, and it's going to change and continue to grow, and it's not going to be the same as it was a few days ago, a few years ago. And so the idea is to get concepts from reading these books, get concepts from other people, get ideas from other people, but really try it out for your team. See if it works or not. That's the only way you're going to know. And sometimes it's going to fail. So don't be afraid of that. I think that we code communication. I think that it is important, as I said, to know the pulse of your team and what your team's algorithm is to be successful. And I was thinking about it on what is your team's Morse code? What is that? You have it. Every team has it. It's called a culture, a team culture. And so you figure that out, and you can move through things pretty quickly. Set goals. I love agility. I am all for it. But I've got a team of developers who are like, please write down a goal for me. Please put something on a calendar. Because honestly, it just helps keep us honest, you know? Make sure that you continue to try to learn the vision of the leader of your team and the leaders of your teams, and don't be afraid to continue to ask what that vision is, learn more about it. It's called listening, you know, right? Because the first thing is you got to listen to it a couple times. But what's most important about listening is seeing if you heard what the other person said accurately. And it's their perception that is what matters. It doesn't matter if you said it correctly or not. It is their perception. Okay? So if you as a team take consideration of the fact that every single person on that team has good intention. So if the first thing you think of is my team has good intention, these people have a good intention, you're going to remove the difficulty that could occur with this, how would they ever think that, you know, kind of attitude, right? Because your initial thought is going to be, they have good intention, let me see if I can understand more about what they just said. And so when you have that huge view and that vision, you're going to be more comfortable being able to say no, because you're going to know, does it fit the vision of the team? Is it going in the right direction of what we as a team want to do? And you're going to know that. If you don't really know that and have it, you know, confidently inside of you, you're going to have a hard time saying no. And that's what I've learned through this. So this is the last slide, the big secret. Does anybody know? Can you guess? I told you I'd tell you there's a big secret. It's the people. It's the people. It's us. And the fact that this is who you're working with. That is who you're working with. Somebody is not feeling very well. Somebody could be missing a father or a family member in the military. Someone could be struggling with many of their own issues that are personal. And so it is important to reach out and to be there for each other. And I would encourage everybody to pay it forward. Whether you pay it forward at the workplace or you pay it forward somewhere else. I had a really bad day yesterday. I did. And I went to Hy-Vee because I was going to pick up something quick because I had my sons come over and stuff. And I saw a woman who had her military fatigues on with two very little children. And they were picking out a little Thanksgiving cookie. And at that point, you realize that your problems aren't that big. So if you can afford to do it and get those little cookies for those kids, do it. If you can afford to say thank you for your service, give somebody a smile when you're walking in the hall, it could change the day. It could change the day. So that's the idea, is that it's the people, and that's all I got. I'm sorry it was a little